write or type with. Just have that ready because we're going to use it in just a minute. Okay, so first I want to go over the big idea, objectives, and expectations for the day. So if you remember, the overarching big idea of this next unit is that art is necessary. The objectives are I will be able to understand and describe why history of theater is important and how that applies to why art is necessary. I will examine, note take, and discuss artistic choices in theater based on critical analysis, background knowledge, and historical and cultural context. And then the expectations for the day are to note take during the PowerPoint because I will be testing you on this. So I want to make sure that you have that information ready and available to study. Like I said, you can use either paper and pencil or your computer, whatever you're comfortable using. And then you may ask questions at any time. Don't hesitate. Okay, so we're going to start with Journal 1, just so that I can see where you're at as of now. I want to see how much you know about Greek theater in general. If you don't know anything, that's absolutely okay. Just write that in your journal that you don't know anything about Greek theater, but maybe write what you would like to know. Why do you think Greek theater is important to know? How does that apply to why art is necessary? And then one question you may have. So I'll just give you a few minutes to do that, and then when you're done, just look up so I can tell. I'm gonna readjust myself over here. Good. Anything fun that you guys did in the past few days?
I went to work.
Yeah.
Working? Yeah. Me too.
I got just $1.50.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
I made $10 on a 4-hour shift.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry about that. Is everyone good? Ready to move on? Are you good, Jalen?
I can leave.
Oh no, if you need a little extra time, that's fine. I'll be collecting these at the end of class, so don't put those away. If you did it on your computer, just submit it online, that's fine. You can email it to me. word origin of theater, where that originated. So the modern word theater comes from the Greek word theatron, and that means seeing place. The theatron is actually another word for a part of the Greek theater stage, and we'll get to that a little later. Okay, the early origins of Greek theater. So it began in the 5th and 6th century BC. The earliest origins of theater were ancient Greek hymns called dithyrambs, and they were sung to honor the god Dionysus and performance, and then religious festivals. And then after time, Greek myths and stories evolved into comedy and tragedy plays. And then dithyrambs can include poems, chants, and hymns. Everyone knows what comedy and tragedy plays are, right? That's what represents the comedy and tragedy masks are. We've talked about that a little bit in the past. And this here is a picture of the god Dionysus that they would worship through performance. Okay, the 4 qualities of Greek theater. So performances for special occasions, like we just mentioned, festivals. Athens had 4 festivals in Greece, and like I said, those were worshiping Dionysus. Competitions were held where playwrights would enter in their plays to compete with one another. There were choral performances, like singing, movement, dancing, spectacle, all that stuff. And then myth and story were tales that were turned into plays, often tales of the gods. And then comedies and tragedies were usually based on these stories, often involving gods. Okay, so the stage. Performances were always outdoors. So weather had a lot to do with when people would perform. The sun position had a lot to do when people would perform, so that it was in the correct position for the performance. They had to make it at the exact right time of day. If the play was when the sun was setting, then they would have to do it like that. Built on a large hillside, like you can see, I have pictures over here. The audience was huge. This was actually called the theatron. Like I mentioned before, the seeing place. That's why it's called that, the theatron. Why do you think that it was built on a large hillside? What do you guys think? Any ideas? Jake, go ahead.
So the voice could echo up into the hillside.
Yep, that's one of the reasons.
I would say because it allows everybody to see. Like it's a lot easier to work with the ground rather than have to like make your own like stands and such.
Absolutely. Any other ideas, or were your ideas stolen? Okay, that's fine. So it was built on this large hillside. Like you said, it helped the sound travel up so that everyone could hear what was said, because it is a large audience. It kind of made a dome-like structure to where the sound would travel. Like you already said, it allowed for everyone to see. So at the levels like we have today, like it's on an incline, so the seats are positioned to where everyone can see the audience. And it was also used to separate audience by social status. That's the one that we didn't get yet. So where do you imagine the rich people and poor people sat? Mm-hmm.
I feel like the rich people probably sat closer to the bottom because they could see better, and then you don't have to walk up all the stairs.
At the bottom? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other ideas? Mm-hmm. Oh.
I think that the rich people sat in the back because some of the plays may have had like things being thrown, and the rich people, and then you can't really see the whole thing. You can sit up front. You're like just certain things.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say farther in the back so they can feel the scope of everything looking in.
Yeah. Okay. So the rich people actually sat down in the front. So it's okay if you thought they sat in the back. I understand why. I actually thought they sat in the back at first too, and I had to research into it a little bit to find out they actually sat down in the front. This is for a better view. Right down in the audience, they didn't have to like strain to hear anything, even though the sound travels up. It's quieter up there, as you can imagine. So they sat down in the front for a better show in general. And then this also showed social status. Within this next slide, I'll show you, they actually had something called a prohedra. And this is where all of the rich people sat. They were like the special seats, like over here. Can you guys see where I'm? There. It's like backwards, so I'm having to really think about it. But there were like these grand seats for the really wealthy people. And it made like this circle-like structure just around, this is the orchestra, the playing space, where all the actors would be. And then everyone else would, in the community, would sit wherever they wanted. There wasn't a specified place for them to sit. Yes?
So was that little barrier like always there, like even when they were performing?
I don't know if every single Greek theater had this barrier, but I'm sure they had something like it where the like grand seats were. I don't know if it exactly looked like this. I would have to research more, but I'm sure each Greek theater had something like it of some sort.
I just feel like that would make it so hard to see.
If you sat behind there?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's on an incline, so these are probably lower, like on ground level, and then the seats above wouldn't have to look over because they're higher up. Does that make sense? Okay, so Greek masks. Actors would often play multiple roles in these plays. So the masks would be used to show character change. The emotions on the masks, as you can see, are very, very exaggerated. Like the character change would be very evident because of these exaggerated emotions. The large audience, these were also exaggerated so the audience could see what kind of character it is, see what character is on stage, and it enhanced body movement. Since the mask would often cover the mouth, as you can see here, sometimes the mouth was still open, but a lot of times it was not. So the emotions on that mask had to be super big and they had to speak super loud with huge body movements so the audience could see who's talking. Let's see where, okay. Okay, now the chorus and actors. So sadly, only men at this time were allowed to participate in theater. I know, boo. And then movement during the shows was very controlled, it was very unhurried, and it was often done in a very grand manner, like I said, throughout movements. The reason it was unhurried was to, I'm skipping ahead, was to show a rhythmic function. Audible beats and silent pauses were often added into the plays so that it would give the audience time to think about and register what is happening in the play. They often had that like almost musical function. The chorus and music was added to heighten emotion within the plays, and the spectacle was often added through song and dance. Since they didn't have, all of the technology that we have today, all of, the special tech elements that we've talked about, they don't really have those back then, as you can imagine, so they had to use like dancing. Okay, now we have a video example for you guys. Let's see. Let's have a group here. Let's have a group here, and then let's have a group here. Okay? Sounds good. So go ahead and move into those groups. And then while watching, I'd like you to try and look for things that you noticed that you saw also in the PowerPoint,